Let us take the readings today as they are. We start with what Jesus said, whoever loves his mother, his father, more than me is not worthy of me. It has nothing to do with loving family less. In the first place, God has said, fourth commandment, honor your father and mother. And by the way, the bonds of family can never be broken. Not even death can break this bond. In fact, what truly happens is that the family is always bonded in God. And so this is just an irony when Jesus said this, because he wanted to really point us to a real family that we and you and I belong to. And that is his family. The family of the Father, of the Son, and in spirit. And by the way, it is death that ultimately brings us to that family without breaking the bonds of our own earthly families, but in fact enriching it with the very life of God. You understand? The love of God. The love of God, many of the desert fathers have always said, is simple. It is not complicated at all. And it is one. It does not change in any way. In other words, the love of God cannot be diminished by human sinning. Cannot be. Neither can it be increased by human righteousness. It cannot be. You cannot earn God's love in any way, nor invalidate it in any way by your sin. The love of God keeps flowing, simply and in one flow. It never changes. Remember this always. It never changes. And so, there's a desert father, Isaac of Syrian. He boldly even say, the love that God the Father has for each one of us, even for the worst of sinners, is the same love that he had for Jesus Christ, who died for us. Imagine that. That even the worst person that you can think of, even that person is loved by the Father as much as the Father loves his Son. And that is the love that Jesus is offering to us when he says, if you love mother, father, brother, sister more than me, you're not worthy of me. That's the love that you and I have. Second, and then he said, take up your cross. Each one of us here today, we are all carrying a cross. Whether that's the death of your own child, a member of the family, whether that's a diagnosis of a fatal sickness, whether it is as simple as not having your dreams that you had been praying for years. We all carry a cross. But look, not one of us was appointed by God to be able to carry any cross. No, not one. There is only one man whom God has appointed to really carry crosses. And that is that man who is also at the same time God. And so when Jesus is saying, carry your cross, and if you don't, you are not worthy of me, what he is pointing at is himself. Let me carry your cross. And I know that it sometimes the hardest thing to do is to unburden ourselves from the crosses, because there is always something in us, which is not bad, but there's always something in us that says, I can do it. I will only ask God to give me the grace to carry it. Did you hear that? Let me only ask God for the grace to carry it. That is not entirely the right way to pray. The right way to pray is the utter surrender to the God who alone carries crosses. And so the prayer must be, Lord, I cannot carry this cross by myself. And so I lay it again on your shoulders. Carry it for me. And that's the only way that we can truly carry the crosses. We call that redemptive suffering, right? In the olden days, we used to call that redemptive suffering. In other words, it means to say that even the least of our pains and aches, a toothache, a headache, a knee ache, any, can be offered to the Lord, and especially the ache of grief, of mourning. Because it is this cross of grief that really makes us the closest to the Christ whom we are adoring and worshiping. Take that. Anyone here carrying the grief means to say that you are really closest to God right now. It is almost like the partaking of the Eucharist that we will do in a little while. Why? Because we know that somehow death also delimits us to who we truly are. We are mere creatures of God, and yet it is also in death that God brings us ultimately to become more himself. The end of it is when Jesus said, and whoever gives a little glass of water, cold water, in my name, receives the prophet's reward. And what is the prophet's reward? You can see that in the first reading. It is fruitfulness. So, after we had given up things, father, mother, brother, sister, our own life, as on the cross, after we have done all of that, after we have given ourselves as the gift to others, the reward will be fruitfulness. All the more we will become really filled with what we have lost. And that is nothing. It is not really a reward for what we have done. It is because in our self-giving, we stimulate, so to speak, that first love that I talk about, that one and simple love that has no regard either for our sins or for our righteousness. This is the ever-flowing love of God that knows no bound, even if and when our grief is nothing more nor less than true love that has nowhere to go. That is grief. It is love that has nowhere to go, but it must go to Jesus, who now embraces your beloved. Let that love that seems nowhere to go be for God.